Movies can be inspiring, they can be fun, sometimes even thoughtful, but sometimes the opposite is the case. Some movies are so outrageous they have caused large-scale protests, very happy law firms, and sometimes even accusations of murder. Let's start with the documentary because real life is oftentimes scarier than any horror films you can imagine, especially when you think about the documentary Titicut Follies. It showcases the past lives of patient inmates at Bridgewater State Hospital for the criminally insane in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. The documentary was filmed over the course of 29 days and revealed the absolute insane conditions that patient inmates were exposed to. No pun intended. They were often given improper medication, forced to strip naked, and isolated in empty cells for hours, sometimes even days. In this documentary, you see the social workers, the prison guards, and even the medical team harass the patients in their care and seem to even enjoy it. In one notable scene, a patient called Jim is forced to endure a haircut that leaves him badly bruised and even bleeding, before he is taken back to his filthy cell. In another scene, an unnamed man is force-fed by a doctor who wants to use butter or lard to lubricate the rubber tube that goes up the man's nose. Even worse is when a doctor lights a cigarette and drops its ash into the meal the man will ingest. For Jim and other patient inmates at Bridgewater's, this was normal. In a later interview, Wiseman, the filmmaker, commented that the inmates at Bridgewater were treated very badly, by and large, but many of them had committed the most outrageous crimes imaginable. Now take this as you want, but when the documentary was released, it made viewers feel something. Many were uncomfortable or disgusted, while others were angry. The angriest viewer, in fact, was the Massachusetts government, which tried to prevent Wiseman's film from being screened at the '67 New York Film Festival. The government said that Wiseman violated patient rights, go figure, because he didn't have the correct paperwork and that he had broken an oral contract that allowed the state to edit the film before its release. Sounds a bit hypocritical, right? Well, although the film was included in the film festival, Tiricat Follies was ultimately banned from the general public and could only be screened for educational purposes. This ban only ended in 1991 when most of the patients that appeared in the film had passed away and their right to privacy was no longer an issue. I guess one more reason to stay out of prison and one more reason to be skeptical about governments. No one likes having someone copy their work, and that is what may have happened with Christopher Landon's black comedy horror, Happy Death Day. The film focuses on a college student, Nagisa, who is repeatedly murdered on her birthday and restarts the day. In order to stop the time loop, she has to figure out who her killer is. Throughout the film, the killer is shown wearing a baby face mask, with big blue eyes and adorable pink cheeks. The baby is as cute as it is, well, unnerving, I guess. However, the baby face mask was even more unnerving for Jonathan Bartuccelli, the creator of a character called King Cake Baby, who copyrighted the design in 2009. The character became so popular in New Orleans that it became one of the walk-in head mascots for the state's basketball team, the Pelicans, which makes the situation look even worse since Happy Death Day was filmed at Loyola University in New Orleans. That's right. After the release of Happy Death Day 2 and the reappearance of a certain Baby, Bartuccelli sued the production studios for copyright infringement. The artist asked for half of the film series revenue, which is over $200 million. Currently, the lawsuit remains open. I guess only one walks away happy from that lawsuit. Now, everyone has a film scene that they remember, for better or worse. In Lucio Fulci's psychological horror, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, there was a scene that was so graphic, the film creators landed in court. That's right. The film follows an upper-class woman named Carol Hammond, who is troubled by increasingly bizarre and graphic dreams. Many of them involve her neighbor Julia Durer, who is the exact opposite of Carol. Although Carol has a comfortable life with her family, including her father, her cheating husband, and her stepdaughter, she seems plain and reserved compared to her glamorous neighbor. You see, Julia, her neighbor, holds nightly parties that Carol resents, as she imagines her neighbor having the time of her life. The only parties that Carol attends are boring dinner parties with friends and co-workers of her father, and of course her cheating husband. The difference in their lives makes Carol hate her, leading to a provocative and violent dream that ends with her causing Julia's passing. Even worse is when Carol awakens and finds Scotland Yard at her door. The seductive Julia has passed away just like in her dream, and the detective is determined to find her killer. From then on, the film shows Carol's deteriorating mental health, with each scene becoming increasingly graphic. The notorious scene that saw the director appearing in court happens when Carol is locked into a sanatorium, where she is chased by the main suspect of Julia's death. Carol runs away from the killer, only to find herself in a room where 4 dogs apparently are experimented on. Just a description of this scene would flag this video, so instead, let me give you some completely arbitrary and not at all descriptive adjectives. Open, pulsating, and glossy red. You're welcome. The scene resulted in the filmmakers being brought to court on charges of animal cruelty, which, if the dogs had been treated that way, the filmmakers couldn't have spent long enough in jail. However, the scene was completely fabricated. The film's producer and special effects creator Carlo Rambaldi had created so incredibly realistic dogs for this scene that he fooled the whole world, and of course this court. I guess that's how you get a raise. In fact, he had to bring in the set pieces to be reviewed by the court to prove their innocence. Rambaldi is also the same guy who later went on to produce the iconic E.T. puppet from E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Although the charges were dropped and Fulci avoided a 2-year prison sentence, the scene was removed from the film, and the film itself became almost impossible to view. Until 2003, when Shriek Show released an uncut edition of the film, and horror fans could finally see the legendary scene for themselves. Of course, this list wouldn't be complete without this film on it. Cannibal Holocaust contained such violent and explicit realist content that some viewers thought and still think the scenes were real, ending up with the director facing murder charges. Cannibal Holocaust follows Professor Harold Monroe, who leads a search team to South America where an independent film crew went missing. The film crew in question originally traveled to an area called the Green Inferno, somewhere in the Amazon rainforest, in hopes of making a documentary about cannibal tribes. Speaking of which, who thought that this was a good idea anyway, right? After discovering that film crew had passed away, Monroe is able to take their film footage back to the States. There, he watches the footage and finds that it's more than not safe for work. It's, in fact, not safe for life. The footage reveals an exploitative film crew who manipulate, humiliate, and harass the Yakumo tribe. In return, the tribe seeks bloody retribution, and they get it. Because of the involvement of real indigenous people in Cannibal Holocaust, as well as the documentary style, many viewers were convinced that the film was real. It didn't help that Deodata, the director, had the 4 main actors in the film sign a contract preventing them from appearing in the media for an entire year. This led to the film being confiscated only 10 days after its premiere, and Deodata found himself charged with obscenity and murder. Even after the film crew appeared in court and the director brought the 4 main actors onto a TV show, some viewers remained unconvinced. The legal issues surrounding the film only stopped after Deodata explained how one of the film's most gruesome scenes was filmed and how the special effects involved worked on a mechanical level. Only when this was brought to court, the murder charges were dropped. However, suspicion remains until this very day. It is not proven that this was indeed written by Mark Twitchell, but it was found on his computer despite having deleted it, so... Mark filmed an unreleased horror short film titled House of Cards prior to the murder of John Altinger. The film was about a serial killer who used dating websites to lure people into their demise. It was inspired by the TV show Dexter that he apparently admired very much. Just like the character in his unreleased film, Mark met his victim on a dating website where he pretended to be an attractive woman. After setting up the date, he lured Altinger to the same garage in which he had filmed the short film, overpowered him, clipped his lights out, and continued to dismember, partly burn, and then hide him in garbage bags inside a storm sewer. Fortunately, it didn't take long for authorities to catch on. The trace quickly led to Twitchell, who was quickly put in court and sentenced to 25 to life on grounds of first-degree murder. Since his sentencing in 2011, he remains in a Canadian state prison. I guess one more reason to be wary of catfish and one more reason to always meet in public in a cafe at 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, my friends. Similar to the legal trouble that a lizard in a woman's skin in Cannibal Holocaust encountered is a controversy of Michael and Roberta Findlay's splatter film Snuff. At a time, the Findlays were infamous for their sexploitation films, which have a strong cult following to this day. Snuff showcases a pregnant actress, Terry London, and her team who visit a fictional location in South America. There, the unlucky group encounters a man named Satan and his followers of female bikers who begin to stalk them with violent intentions. While the film originally had a fairly straightforward plot, this changed when Alan Shackleton bought the distribution rights for the film. He initially thought the film had no appeal to audiences until he thought of a new ending, one that would make it seem as if the film was real. The new ending made it seem as if the initial plot with Satan and his followers was only a movie that the cast was filming, and no one had actually died. The film crew then begins to film the on-screen director, who flirts with a female crew member, before attacking her. He is held by other crew members in a scene so violent and explicit that many viewers thought an actual murder had occurred. Shackleton encouraged the infamy surrounding the film by hiring people to protest movie theaters that showed the film, leading to real protesters joining them. Two of the film's strongest critics who said that the snuff aspect was a hoax were Variety and the Adult Film Association of America. The association even ended Shackleton's membership and gave a press conference where they stated the film was a hoax. The controversy reached its peak when theater critic Eric Bentley, activist Susan Brownmiller, and other well-known figures complained so much about the film that New York District Attorney Robin Morgenthau spent a month investigating the film. Held by police, Morgenthau eventually found the actress who played the murder crew member, and to the relief of many, she was alive and well. How influential can a film be? Many thought that Oliver Stone's crime drama film, Natural Born Killer, influenced violence across the United States. The film focuses on Mickey Knox and his wife Mallory, who are bonded by their traumatic childhoods and their violent impulses. They travel across the country, leaving numerous corpses behind. The mass media plays a key role in this film's story as well, as America becomes fixated on the murderous couple. They become criminal superstars and soon appear on every tabloid cover and are the subject of many late-night shows, without any consideration for the victims and their families, let alone the value of human life. Two characters especially become quickly obsessed with the couple: Detective Jack Scagnetti, who has a violent past of his own, and tabloid journalist Wayne Gale, who is hungry for fame. Gale sees an opportunity to make his career by exploiting the story of the couple and their horrific activities. Eventually, the loving couple are arrested, though they have no intentions of becoming model prisoners. The pivotal scene in the film occurs when Gale has an interview with Mickey, planning to release it just after the Super Bowl. In the interview, Mickey calls himself a natural-born killer, resulting in a graphic prison riot and the couple's subsequent escape. Gale comes with the couple, who agrees to give him a final interview. However, this comes at a price. The journalist will lose his life, and they will leave his camera alone. He agrees and passes away while a traumatized news anchor listens via Gale's in-ear microphone. After the film's release, it divided critics. Either they loved it or hated it. One person who condemns the film to this day is Quentin Tarantino. After he tried to publish his original screenplay of the film as a paperback, he was sued by the producers of the film, explaining that when they purchased the script from Tarantino, he sold all the rights to the material. In response, Tarantino said that he, in quote, hated that movie. Other legal troubles followed the film after it reportedly inspired Sarah Edmondson and Ben Darris, who went on a crime spree in 1995. One poor woman, Patsy Byers, became a quadriplegic after a violent encounter with the pair, leading to Byers' family suing Oliver Stone for creating natural-born killers. The lawsuit was, of course, dismissed, but the film remains infamous for its violence and disturbing content. The last film on our list is Nagisa Oshima's drama In the Realm of the Senses, which is a fictional account of one of Japan's most notorious female killers, Sada Abe, an apprentice geisha turned lady of the night who murdered her lover. The film became almost as infamous as Sada Abe herself when the director faced indecency charges after the romantic scenes in the film were confirmed as real. In the Realm of the Senses depicts a turbulent and abusive relationship between a reimagined Sada Abe, who works as a hotel maid, and the hotel's owner Kishitsu Ishida. As they become obsessed with one another, Ishida leaves his wife and dedicates himself to Sada completely. The couple begins to become more extreme with their nightly activities and the power dynamic between them. As their relationship reaches a tipping point, their games go too far, and Ishida dies during their playtime. Unwilling to be parted from her lover, Sada removes her favorite part of him and keeps it close by, something that occurred in real life as well. Although the film is beloved by critics today, it had a long and controversial history at the time of its creation. Due to strict censorship laws in Japan, Oshima listed the production as a French enterprise and had the film footage edited in France. The film was allowed to premiere in Japan, where it was heavily censored. However, the Japanese government took notice when a book about the film was published. The book contains stills from the film, as well as script notes which revealed that the lovemaking scenes in the film actually occurred. As a result, Oshima and the book's publisher faced obscenity charges, though they were ultimately declared innocent. The film also ended the career of Eiko Matsuda, who played the woman Sada in the film. An incredible actress, Matsuda was blacklisted and harassed in Japan, and she was unable to find work outside of adult films. She eventually moved to Europe, where the harassment ended. In contrast though, Oshima became one of Japan's most iconic directors, and Tatsuya Fuji, who played Ishida, continues acting to this day. Talking about double standards, huh? Thanks so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this one, it was fun to put together, and if you have any other movies in mind that we didn't cover in this video, feel free to leave a comment. Thanks for watching BingeXpress, see you again next week, you take care.